Update. Am I the a-hole for demanding that my husband and I go on video consenting to an open relationship before allowing one? Original post. I've been debating about actually posting this for a while, but since I don't feel comfortable about discussing this with family or friends, I thought I'd come here anonymously. I have been with my husband, both 35, since we were 15 in high school, and married him at 25 after our first child was born. We are each other's only partner for everything, and I thought we were good. Until my husband told me that we weren't. It all started when our first child, 10 female, was born, and the dynamics of our relationship went through a shift. I admit that it was a bit of a challenge, but I thought we were doing okay, until I got pregnant a second time and we had our son, 6 male. It was rough, and between child rearing, both working, taking care of the home, and struggling to save for a bigger place, I honestly started to wonder if we'd make it. We went to counseling, and once all kids were in school, I felt like my husband and I were going to be okay. We moved into our house, we got a handle on our student loans, got help with childcare, received respective employment advances, and were able to make monthly date nights for each other where we could just focus on us. It wasn't perfect, but I truly believed that we were good. Then one day my husband approached me about wanting to bring more excitement into the relationship. At first I thought he just wanted to spice things up, which I was down for, and we did. But then he started to drop little hints about wanting more, and asking me if I ever had any regrets about when we met. It took a while for me to be honest with both him and myself, but I finally admitted that there were certain I wish we could have done differently, and he seized that moment to bring up opening up the marriage. I was shocked, confused, hurt, and the thought of cheating entered my mind. He assured me that it wasn't, and sent me articles and videos about ethical non-monogamy, but I wasn't initially open to it. Unfortunately, my husband didn't stop and kept pestering me about it, to the point where it would ruin our date nights. And after a year, I relented just to get it over with, but insisted on some ground rules. One of them being that I wanted us both to sit down together and record ourselves consenting to allowing the other to have a partner. When my husband asked why, I showed him a post about a woman who was in an open relationship with her husband, and one day while she was out with her boyfriend, a relative of the husband saw, took pictures, and then confronted the wife with the entire family. They accused her of cheating, and her husband just let her take the fall. I don't ever want to be in that position, but my husband dismissed it, saying that what happened to her won't happen to us, and that no one else needs to be in our relationship, which I found laughably ironic. I told him no video confirmation of consent, then no open relationship. My husband thinks I'm being paranoid, unreasonable, selfish, unfair, and unwilling to compromise. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. I'm more concerned that you seem to not actually want an open relationship. It's not an open relationship if you have to coerce your partner into accepting it. How vile to actually think you have permission to sleep around when you emotionally beat your spouse into submission. Yeah, these open relationships never end well. Even discussing the possibility of a threesome or foursome with my last ex most likely caused the downfall of our relationship. She did not take too kindly to me even mentioning the idea, and I promised to never bring it up again to her, which I never did suggest anything like that again. My husband thinks I'm being paranoid, unreasonable, selfish, unfair, and unwilling to compromise. No, he is being unreasonable, selfish, and unfair. It's a reasonable precaution, and one you should do. But honestly, with his attitude, this is all going to blow up on you somehow no matter what precautions you take. Not the a-hole. He nagged her for a year for this, and now won't do the one thing she's asking for to protect herself? If I were betting on this marriage, I wouldn't. He just wants permission to have sex with other people. I bet he already has his first lined up, probably already cheated, and will say, oh, it started after we opened up our marriage. Right. Now for the update months later. Hello everyone. Some things have changed, and because I still get the occasional PM about this, I decided to give an update to my situation, and it will probably be many months before I give any new information if I update again at all. To get straight to the point, I decided to give my husband what he wanted and will be filing for divorce. For more details, please continue reading. After having yet another argument about opening up the marriage, my husband threw a fit and left the house and didn't return until the following day. It was late and I know he had been drinking a few more beers than he usually does, so I was worried and kept trying to call and text him. He didn't respond, but while I was walking around the house with worry, I noticed a pinging sound around the time after I sent my husband messages. I eventually found the iPad that he used to use and was planning on giving to his sister's stepkid, and realized it was still linked to his phone. Against my looming sense of guilt, I checked his iPad and it turns out he's been messaging another woman from work for months. It wasn't just work-related or platonic stuff either. A lot of these messages were really spicy and had the occasional NSFW pictures. They didn't show each other's faces, but I know my husband's body and the chick he was communicating with forgot about the mirror behind her, which showed a tattoo that she had on her back of her shoulder. So even though she cut off her face, I knew who she was. According to the messages, they haven't gone all the way, but they have done other stuff and made jokes and comments about me. To make it worse, he's also been messaging some of his friends and cousins about me, saying how disgusting he thinks my body has become since having our kids. How he hates that my breasts have tiny stretch marks and aren't as high up as they used to be, and resents me for putting my desires of doing motherhood a certain way, rather than considering the needs of my partner, aka my choice to breastfeed instead of using formula like he kept suggesting. My heart broke and I cried as I read the messages. I guess I wasn't as quiet as I thought I was because my son woke up and asked me if I was okay. I ended up taking him to bed with me and we fell asleep snuggling. I woke up to my daughter giving me breakfast, toast with jam and a peeled tangerine with some cereal, and told me that she heard her father and I arguing and wanted to cheer me up because she knew I was sad. This made me angry inside, not at the kids, but at my husband. How dare this man subject these beautiful kids to this type of chaos, all because he wanted to get laid. In that next moment, something in me broke emotionally, and I no longer held any care or love for my husband. Part of me was hoping something terrible did happen to him while he was out, as it would be a much cleaner break for me and my kids, and I would have the benefit of his life insurance policy. Maybe I should see a therapist about that. After I finished having breakfast with the kids, I let them go play while I looked up divorce attorneys and Googled state laws on marriage and divorce. My husband came back in the early afternoon. Still wouldn't say where he was, but I didn't care. As he was showering, I told him that he had my permission to open the marriage, no video or written statement required. He was ecstatic, and suddenly the fun and attentive man my husband was came back, and it made me sick. He agreed never to bring any of his conquests to the home where our children might see and use protection, but his word means nothing to me now. Over the next couple of days, I used my lunch breaks to have phone meetings with lawyers, and I believe I've found a one for me. Since I gave my husband the green light, he's not being covert about his adventures and even showed me his Tinder profile. I smile but say nothing, and I'm just collecting whatever evidence I can pass on to my lawyer. My plan is to serve him and pretend to be the aggrieved wife who found out about his adultery and lie about giving him permission to family and friends. No one outside of my lawyer knows that I'm gearing up for divorce in real life, and there is no changing my mind. Thank you for reading. Good job. I recommend, however, that you take an STD test. It's obvious that you no longer want to touch that animal, but you don't know for how long he has been unfaithful to you before this open marriage thing. Also, please give an update on that little jerk's reaction when he receives the papers. Facts. OP. That open marriage spin was just him soft-launching cheating with a safety net. You handled this with so much grace and clarity. He played his stupid game, and now he's getting the prize he earned. Hope that video moment sticks with him when those papers land. This guy is a massive a-hole. You, my dear, take care of yourself and those kids of yours. Collect your evidence and don't tolerate the disrespect. Seriously sorry, you married a massive a-hole. Last story. Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law that she made her choice when she chose to keep seeing my husband's ex? Original post. I, 33 female, and my husband Tom, 35 male, have been no contact with most of his family for 3 years. In that time, we had our boys, which has made my mother-in-law try to reconnect. The issue centers around Tom's ex, Talia. I'm Indian American, and Tom is white, from a traditional small-town family. Talia, mother-in-law's best friend's daughter, was the perfect small-town girlfriend. Though Tom and I clicked platonically in college, he developed feelings after dating me a while. He broke up with Talia before we started dating, but mother-in-law stayed close to her, calling her the daughter she always wanted, even though Tom has a sister. Talia, the homemaker, was favored over us career-focused women. At family gatherings, I was polite despite Talia's open disrespect, but things escalated at our 2 weddings, Indian and American. My parents paid for both, and the dress code prohibited red, an important bridal color in my culture. At the Indian wedding, Talia wore an eggshell dress. White is worn at funerals in our culture. But at the American ceremony, she showed up in a red bridesmaid dress with a high slit. After Tom and my sister-in-law asked her to change, she left and came back in a green dress. My relatives noticed, and she became the subject of gossip. Mother-in-law later told me to keep my kind in line, to which I replied that Talia brought it on herself. Tom and sister-in-law backed me up, and mother-in-law left with Talia before dessert. The next day, Talia posted on Facebook, claiming she was exiled because the bride was jealous. I posted in response, tagging mother-in-law and calling Talia out for knowingly violating boundaries. I asked mother-in-law to keep Talia away from holidays. She could keep her spa days, but I didn't want her at family events. Mother-in-law agreed, until 3 years ago when she invited Talia to Thanksgiving, an event I hosted. Talia showed up with a pie and a passive-aggressive comment about my ethnic cooking. I slammed the door in her face and told mother-in-law to leave too. Tom backed me up and told his family they lost access to us the moment they chose Talia. We've been no contact since. Last week, mother-in-law texted me wanting to reconcile after seeing a photo of the boys. She claimed she's no longer close with Talia, but Facebook suggests otherwise. I told her, "You made your choice." Tom doesn't miss them and says life's been better without his mom. Still, my brothers-in-law, father-in-law, and their wives are asking for a second chance. Mother-in-law always wanted to be a grandma, and her other sons don't have kids. But I can't forget the years of disrespect. And Talia's still around. I don't want to reopen the door just to invite chaos back in. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law she made her choice? Edit. For clarity, Tom did not cheat on Talia. He broke up with her before we dated. There was no overlap, only some early emotional bonding that never crossed lines. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Info. Did you marry your husband or your brother-in-law, their wives, and your father-in-law? Because your husband is relieved, but you seem to think you might be the a-hole for not taking away that relief? It's just a weird thing to think you're an a-hole for not being a bad wife. It is mostly due to my overthinking. I just tend to overthink now, which really wasn't a problem before having kids. I once spent 20 minutes in the kitchen debating on if Tom thought my feet smelt post-birth. Legit cried, and Tom had to hold me and assure me I didn't stink. It's funny now, but back then, I was worried about an oncoming divorce because my toes were gross. Postpartum hormones were haywire, and my confidence never fully recovered. Not the a-hole. Mother-in-law made her choice. Said she changed, but you see she hasn't on Facebook, so she doesn't deserve another chance. There is no endless chances clause, no auto-forgive clause, or the right to be included for anyone or family. If you don't behave, you don't get to be included. When you get the chance, tell mother-in-law she can be grandma to Talia's kids. Not to mention, mother-in-law has had years before kids arrive to apologize and hasn't. She just wants access to your kids, even if they are half Indian. Which, by the way, what's stopping mother-in-law from acting racist to them and putting them down? Now for the update. First, thank you to everyone who supported my original post. I was emotional when I wrote it and didn't explain things clearly. So let me clarify. Tom did not cheat on Talia. Their relationship ended before ours began. They dated since middle school. Tom and I became friends in college, and after realizing he connected with me more, he broke up with Talia and asked me out the following week. We didn't get romantic until 4 dates in. No overlap, no affair. Also, Talia is the one who wore the white dress to the Indian wedding and attempted to wear the red dress to the American wedding, not the other way around. I know that caused confusion. Now for the update. Tom and I are still no contact with mother-in-law. After more texts from her, we sent one final message stating she had repeatedly disrespected our boundaries and that we weren't interested in reconciling. We called out how she prioritized Talia, enabled her behavior, and turned a blind eye to her insults and drama. We reminded her that our wedding boundaries were ignored, that she made it clear she preferred Talia as a daughter-in-law, and that she lost all credibility with us. We warned her not to pursue grandparents' rights and told her to leave us alone. Then we blocked her and locked down our social media. We also asked friends and family to do the same if they had mutual connections. Things have been quiet since. Talia did see the post though. She screenshotted it and texted Tom through a burner number. He replied with laughing emojis and blocked her. He's always had my back, even during the worst of it. People criticized him last time for not doing enough, but managing mother-in-law was a circus act. He and sister-in-law have always been on my side, even subtly, like the time Tom accidentally poured water on Talia after she spilled soda on me at a barbecue. Someone compared Talia showing up to our weddings to Camilla showing up at Charles and Diana's. Honestly, it kind of fits, except Talia will always just be the ex. If anything else happens, I'll update again. I got temporarily locked out of my account for suspicious activity. Mods thought I was a bot. But fingers crossed it doesn't happen again. Thank you all again for your support. Having read your prior post, I honestly think that the response you formulate with your husband needed to come from him alone. Not because you don't have every right to speak up, but he needs to do a heck of a lot more to defend you. Hindsight is a thing, but why on earth he didn't step up and nip all of this in the bud yonks ago is beyond me. Also, I'm genuinely curious here, so no malice meant at all. But why is wearing white not okay to an Indian wedding? Obviously, I know it is a faux pas here, but didn't know it was a thing in your culture? It's not that it's not okay, each bride is allowed to wear what colors they want. However, we stated no white and no red. White is typically worn at funerals in Indian culture, so I personally view wearing white, and all its off forms, as someone wishing death to the relationship. That's just personal superstition. Also, Tom has defended me. He and his sister always put up a united front because Talia was deeply ingrained into the family dynamic. Mother-in-law is one of those church ladies, and Talia is also highly involved with the church, so every nook and cranny had a bit of Talia. It wasn't possible to totally cut her off, since at that point in time, we wanted to keep his family in his life. We just had to prove I wasn't leaving. Now we don't care, so no more mother-in-law drama. I asked to be advised when you updated after reading your original post, and I just received the notification. I'm so glad that you don't have to be nice to Talia or mother-in-law anymore, but I think you are counting your chickens before they have hatched. If Talia is really ingrained in mother-in-law's church and is spending all her free time with mother-in-law, who is undoubtedly telling her that she should just wait for you and your husband to fall out, then she is never going to meet someone else. Your mother-in-law has total control of this woman. It's scary. You are doing exactly what you should be doing. Stay as far away from both of them as possible, and make sure you have CCTV cameras on your home. We got cameras not long before the boys were born since our neighbor's car got vandalized. We have them all around the house and inside. So, needless to say, I understand the sentiment. I don't plan to ever have contact with mother-in-law or Talia again.